Hello, everyone. This is Romaric from Qovery. Happy to be here. Happy to have you today. It's been a while that I did a live session. Maybe it was like a few months back. So I'm super happy to be here and super happy to have you all. So just before we get started, we are going to wait a few seconds, a few minutes. I know that some people might be late. And then we can get started and just jump into our demo day from Q2, from May this year. And super glad just to show you all the stuff that we have dropped, launch shipped during the last months. So yeah, let's wait. Just quickly, if you can tell me if the sounds works well. If it's not the case, then I will just adapt that. But I just want to make sure that it works well. Hello. Yeah. Hello, Peter. Great to see you. Okay. Let's say that we can start in maybe 1 more minute. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, the sounds works well. Okay. I'm just going to turn off my phone. Otherwise, I will get like tons of notifications because of comments, because of DMs, because of Slack message, those kinds of stuff. All right. Hey, Miguel. Rémi from my team. Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. Okay. So just quickly, as always, I will introduce myself. I'm Romaric, co-founder and CEO of Qovery. I used to be a tech guy. Now I can say that I'm no longer a tech guy. No, still a bit, but not too much. My team are the ones that are working on the product and make it available for all our users and delivering what they do expect. But yeah, I will try just to cover like all the different topics that we have, and I like to give just like a few details about how things work. So don't be ashamed, or feel free to drop all the questions that you might have about the product and the things, how the things work. I can just deeply explain the things, and if it's not the case, then I will redirect to my team. Okay, so no problem on that. So quickly, just the agenda of the day. So I will quickly introduce Qovery for the ones that don't know what we are doing. Okay, so it's going to be very short, but this session is really dedicated to what's new and what we have done during the last months since we have launched a lot of things, especially 8 things that I want to cover today. It's going to take like up to 40 minutes, and then we'll cover what's next, because there are a few things that I want just to show off about the things that we are working on. And in terms of Q&A, just feel free to ask all your questions during the presentation. I will stop what I'm saying and respond to your to the questions that you might have. Okay, so that's great. Hey, Hugo, that's great to have you. I can see always the same faces, which is great. All right, so just quickly, Qovery is what we call an internal developer platform. Basically, we have developers to be more autonomous, like in their infrastructure applications management. So from applications deployments to application lifecycle management, we cover all of that. And we really focus on what we call developer experience. So the goal for us is really to make them like autonomous. We have a few capabilities like ephemeral environment, the fact that you can manage like properly and easily your applications on Kubernetes, running tests, and stuff like that out of the platform. So yeah, the best way for you just to grasp all the idea and how things work is just by trying yourself Qovery. And we have like more than 100 companies that are using our product, from famous to non-famous ones, that are using our product to empower developers and provide this self-service experience. So yeah, that's it about Qovery. And quickly, so today, what I want to cover is like those things, like 8 main things. We'll spend a lot of time on Kubernetes, as you can see, because there are a few things that we have delivered so far, from the ability to deploy your application locally, to run Qovery on your own Kubernetes, and also like providing Karpenter capabilities on the managed offer that we have. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about. But again, if you have like a few questions, if you have questions about like those things, drop your question in the chat and I will just make sure to respond to all of that. Okay, so let's get started, right? So let's start with the first one, which is the ability to run Qovery on your local machine. Yeah, this is real. You can run now Qovery on your local machine, but how does that work? I will explain that. But I need to explain why we wanted just to provide that. Is that what we have discovered is that people, and it was quite tedious just to get started with Qovery, to try the product. You had necessarily have to get like a Kubernetes cluster running, install Qovery on it, and then evaluate the solution. So what we have done is making sure that actually you can run and you can test Qovery on your local machine. And for that, we need a few components. So those components are like described here, but basically you just need Docker. So once you have Docker that is running, then you can install the CLI, the Qovery CLI, and run the command Qovery demo up. So by running this command, you will get in just 3 minutes something that works, like Qovery working probably on your local machine. And you have access to all the capabilities, meaning that if you're coming for ephemeral environment, or you just want to evaluate the self-service experience for your developers, and you are not even familiar with Kubernetes or anything, you can just run that command and try out the product. It works pretty well. We have spent a lot of time, and I want to thank my team, but we spent a lot of time just to optimizing that part and making sure that it's very convenient and easy to use. Okay, so in terms of resources, 4 gig of RAM, 2 CPU, Docker that is running, and that's it. And under the hood, how it works is that we make sure to, and if you look at the details, because everything is open source, but we spin up a K3S instance on your local machine that we dropped at the end of like the demo run. You can drop that with one command, but basically this Kubernetes will be installed. So it's a single node instance cluster, and we install Qovery on top of that, and then Qovery gets connected to our control plane. So that's as simple as that. It just works. You can look in the detail, but yeah, that's available right away. So if you are running those two commands, you will see that it works. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Hugo. I know that you were like expecting and you were waiting for a long time about that. Yeah, now it's possible like just to run that and evaluate Qovery without the headache of running your own cluster and so on and so forth. Yeah. All right. So that's the first thing. We'll get into more details, and I have like a few stuff that I want to demo. This one is not it's super easy just to do it yourself. I've written an article explaining that. There is even like a video that you can just watch where you see it. So basically, those are the commands that you need to run, but you really have access to all the capabilities. So that's perfectly great. Okay, next. So bring your own Kubernetes. Oh, you see, it looks very similar, right? Actually, so just one moment. There is a question, so I'm just going to, and there is a slightly delay between LinkedIn and my chat. So yeah, this is so cool. Does it work? Copy, clone the local setup to another? Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good question, Peter. So I can maybe just show you quickly about that question. Yeah, that's a good one. But actually, so with Qovery, you have the ability to define. So let's take another, maybe a huge bank, this one. Okay. So you have multiple environments, and each environment is attached to a specific cluster. So in this case, like it's Paris demo cluster that you can see here. Okay, so Paris demo cluster, this environment is running there. But if I clone it and I have my own cluster, so my local cluster that is running, so even in a demo mode, you will see your cluster here, and you can just basically clone the environment. And you can do it the other way around, meaning that you can define and set up your environment on your local machine, try it out, validate that it works, and then you can deploy that into EKS cluster, AKS, anything, like any other cluster. So a production cluster, basically. Yeah. So yeah, let's move on. I hope it will respond to your question. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Yeah. So the next thing, yeah, it looks very similar, which is like the bring your own Kubernetes cluster, of course. So again, with 2 commands, you can basically install Qovery on your cluster, okay? The only requirements that you need is like having obviously a Kubernetes cluster running, okay? So which is normally okay. And you need to have a version, so 1.28 plus. So we do support like those versions. So the last one is like the 130, so which is good. I do think even like it's compatible with the 127, but not very sure. But you can look at the documentation, so you can see in details. But basically, you need just 4 gig of RAM and 2 vCPU as well. So that's basically what we need, not to run Qovery, because it's written in Rust and it's very low consumption in terms of CPU and RAM. But it's because we provide capabilities like so build the capabilities into the product. So meaning that when you define a service, actually, so you can choose to build the application, so directly coming from your repository into on the cluster. And for that, we need some resources, so CPU and RAM. So that's why we define the minimum as being 2 vCPU and 4 gig of RAM. So that's the reason. Then but you can configure all of that into the product. Okay, so it's configurable through the end values that we do generate. So when you run the command actually Qovery cluster install, what happens is that we generate the Helm chart. We do generate the Helm values actually, okay? And the Helm values is available on your local machine, so you can review that and you can change the parameter if you need to, okay? But we have a wizard process, so that's why you can choose the cloud provider, the container registry that you want to use, and those things. Okay, so we do generate the final Helm charts. And then once you have the Helm charts, you can choose just to apply it, or you can review it and you can basically change and adapt the configuration. Okay, so there is a lot of elements. Everything is explained in the documentation of the parameters that you can configure. And one thing is that all that process just takes less than 5 minutes. So it's really fast, really easy. So if you want to evaluate that again on an existing Kubernetes setup that you have, you can do it. All right. So all the features are available from the traditional, so the managed Kubernetes versions that we have. Okay, and it's free up to 3 clusters, which is more than necessary for like most of usage. Basically, you can use it really for free, and everything runs on your side. I will probably organize and do a demo, maybe a much more like deeper detail, like a demo about how things works. But basically, I have an article that you can read explaining how Qovery works and how the things works on your cluster. Basically, it's all explained in that article. Yeah, this one. I will share that in the chat. Probably, or if someone from my team can just share that in the chat, that would be great. Yeah. All right. So yeah, you can run that, and I did some tests. Some of you have seen that on LinkedIn that I've published some videos on Civo cluster. It works really anywhere. I did some tests on Azure, DigitalOcean, even on the. You can do it on your Raspberry Pi. Now there is like enough memory and CPU, and it just works because we support also all architectures. So AMD 64, ARM, it just works again. So you have access to all the capabilities. Yeah, sounds good. We can move forward. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Hugo. So Hugo was saying that, said that, it's free, like up to 3 clusters, so you can even run that like on your home lab. It works. Yeah, I think there's like some people from our team that are doing exactly that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for sharing the link. Yeah. Actually, Scaleway is Eric. Since you can install Qovery anywhere, you can do it on Scaleway, but we do provide like a managed version of Qovery, so cluster on Scaleway. But it works like it really works like anywhere. So when you create the cluster, first we have already the Scaleway cloud provider that is available, but you can do it and install that on a capsule yourself if you are managing the Kubernetes yourself. It just works. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's move on. Yeah. So one big piece that we were missing in our product was like the annotations, the way that, so being able just to manage Kubernetes annotation. I know that it was an expected one. So now it's available basically for like a few weeks, even like a few months almost. So yeah, basically it's really, it's great to extend the capabilities, the Kubernetes capabilities. You might be familiar already with the annotations, so you can just start to change the default parameters inside the Kubernetes resources. So that's pretty convenient and pretty powerful. And something that we have done in our product, and I'm going to show you that in the demo, is that you can manage in a group way like the different annotations that you might define. So meaning that when you are like in the settings of your organization, you can create some groups, okay? And those groups, they can combine and they can combine different annotations that you will apply to the different resources that you might just select. So those are like the scopes, okay? And something that is quite interesting. So for instance, here it's just like an example with Cloudflare. Let's pretend that you can add some capabilities with on the ingress controller. And you have to define, because you have installed some CRDs on your cluster that you can install because Qovery support Helm charts deployment. Then you want to apply those capabilities to the ingresses that you might want to select. And for that, so you create a group. So this is the protect with Cloudflare annotation group, for instance, with like the different keys. You select the scope, so ingress, and you have like a few other scopes that you can select. And once it's defined, you can start using that into the different services that you want, where you want to apply like those annotations, like those protection. So I can show you, for instance, so let's say that here I have this backend that is exposing some ingress because obviously it's exposed from outside, you see. So I've defined like some external port and this application is accessible from outside. If I want to apply those annotations, I just need to get into the settings of that application and select the different annotations group that I want to apply. It's very powerful, very convenient, because what does that mean? It means that if you need to change like those annotations group, you can do it from one place, and you can see what are like the different services that they are using those annotations. You see, so, and you can even see the details of those annotations. Yeah, so that's very, very, very convenient. Yeah, just one question: exist on Terraform provider, Qovery provider? That's a very good question. Let's take this out together. So yes, we do have a Qovery Terraform provider, official one. So meaning that everything that I'm doing from the web interface, actually I can do it from our Terraform provider, just to configure it in a proper way, in a GitOps way if I want. So yeah, I can do that. So let's just look at the Qovery organization. Maybe it's not the data source. So maybe it's at the, let's take the application level. So I'm not even sure about that. So let's check this out. You can see that I'm not aware. So maybe it's coming. Probably it's coming then, Michael. So I'm not sure, but maybe someone from the team can just give an ETA on that if it's not available yet on the Terraform provider. But usually what we do is that we launch. So first, everything is available through the API. Our API is public. Then we release on the web interface, and then we release on the different other clients, especially like the Terraform provider. So it's backport to that. So it can take like a few days to few weeks, but it's everything basically that you can do in the web interface. You can do it from the Terraform provider at some point. Yeah. So yeah. So Julien is responding. You have the direct answer like right from the chat. So not yet, but it's planned. So that's great. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So if I go back here, yes, it's applied. I can just save the changes, redeploy, and then the annotations will be applied to the ingress controller. And you can even like just look at how the things work under the hood. Yeah. So that's great. So yes, it's available on all the type of resources that we have. And you can use it right away. We have already obviously like a few customers that are using that because they need it just to extend the capabilities, the default capabilities. There is an article, so if you want to look at that, so Qovery annotations blog. So if you type that, custom Kubernetes annotation, there is an article explaining also this feature with a video as well. So the same thing that I just did. And you have a few examples here of things that you can do for Datadog, for HashiCorp Vault, for the HPA, so the vertical auto, so the horizontal pod autoscaler, basically all the different type of resources that you might want just to deploy on Kubernetes. Yeah. All right. So next. Yeah, it's a lot. Oh, this one is a big one. Very, very interesting one. So this one is just to explain and to give more context. So with Qovery, we have you have the ability to, we have different offers. So basically, you can install Qovery on your own Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so meaning that you are managing the Kubernetes cluster for by yourself. So let's say it's EKS. You are managing that. You are used to just work with that. You install Qovery on it with the Helm chart, and it just works. Okay. But we also provide an offer where we do manage the cluster for you on your cloud account. Okay. And for that, that's why we have different cloud providers. We do support, we have this offer for different cloud providers. So AWS, GCP, and Scaleway, basically. Okay. And with AWS, we work with like their teams, so the different teams and EKS team to provide Karpenter so into that that offer. So what's Karpenter? It's a node autoscaler, basically. Okay, so it replaces the default node autoscaler that you have on Kubernetes. And the value of that, so there is an article that I will share. Actually, there's like a few links that you can see just at the bottom here that you can open. So I will share those links in the chat. So let me just drop that. But maybe, yeah, I will share just those links afterwards. But basically, I explain what's the value of that, how you can use it, what's the gain, like obviously just using that. But the thing that you need just to keep in mind is it helps to optimize resources, meaning like all the compute resources that we schedule on your cluster, you can really optimize that because the classic default node autoscaler is great to spin up new nodes when you need more resources, but it's not so great just to downscale the resources. Okay. Yeah, just quick point. Yeah, you're completely right, Hugo. Actually, Karpenter is available like for, I think they do support a lot, even more than just Azure, but yeah, they do support other cloud providers, which is great. And that's probably something maybe at some point that we'll also like provide for the other managed cloud that we have. But yeah, you can use Karpenter even on your own setup if you want on premise. So just to get back to the explanation, the classic node autoscaler is not so great just to scale down. Scale up is great, but to scaling down resources, it's not so great. And one other thing is that if you are familiar with Kubernetes on AWS, you have to assign like some node groups with the type of instances that you want to see running on your cluster. And that it's not very optimum because sometimes you might need just like a few instances, but maybe depending on the run of your applications and the workload that is running on that, maybe another type of instances would be better. And this is where Karpenter comes in because actually you no longer need to define those node groups. So I make it very easy, like just to explain that. I'm not getting too much into details. So it's not 100% true, but basically, as a user, you just need to you have instances that can be spin up depending on the real workload of your application, which is great. So you no longer need to define what's the size of your pool of nodes. Okay, how many like instances you want to see running, what's the type of instances, and all of that. So with Karpenter, you no longer define that, and you will get the guarantee of having like the right type of instances depending on the real workload of your application, which is really, really powerful. So you have a huge gain in terms of cost, especially if you are using and spinning up new environments, scaling down those environments, something that you can easily do with Qovery. You will see huge gain in terms of cost. So there is also like a few other capabilities that you have with that, like the spot instances. So now with Qovery, with Karpenter, so I have a cluster actually that is running on Karpenter. My cluster, this cluster, the Paris demo cluster, so it's running on Karpenter. I've turned on the feature by just setting this parameter at true. And I've also enabled, you see, the spot instances. Okay. So I got the spot instances that they are enabled on that cluster, meaning that, yeah, I'm doing like huge gain. It's no longer like on-demand instances, it's spot instances. And I got the guarantee to just like get what I need for my applications, but I get them like at the best cost. Okay. So that's pretty good and pretty convenient. And also you can attach like GPUs, very easy. So I have another article. So that's the one actually that is written here. So a GPU Karpenter Qovery. Okay, so it's explained here. But basically, Karpenter is something that we are pushing. We are in beta right now. So if you are interested for your testing workload, your staging workload, then just ask like the team to get access to that. There is a link that could be shared like by the team member in the chat, but basically you will get like a huge gain in terms of cost, and in terms of performances also you will see like a huge gain because now the instance types are dynamic depending really on the workload. There is an article, so just to go back quickly to here. This article that I did is quite interesting because I stress test Karpenter. So then you can see in real time, so how the things behave, how the allocations works, and it's really, really powerful. And for this benchmark that I quickly did, I run like 30 environments with a bunch of applications inside those environments, and you can see that the autoscaler is really fast to schedule new nodes. And also the other way around, when you drop the environment, then the resources, the nodes are deallocated, which was not the case with the node autoscaler, the classic one. All right. So I will share the link also again in the chat about that, but you can just review that part. It's quite interesting. And for all our customers that are using our managed offer, it will be a huge, 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 huge gain in many ways. All right. Okay. So it's a big piece. All right. Okay, so let's move on. The Helm deployment. So I know that this one is not a new one, but there is a new thing that we have done, improve, since we have seen how people were using this feature, which is a really important feature. Almost like all our customers are using Helm deployment. So there is something that were a bit tedious, okay, with that feature is that if you wanted to see the information in the interface, like here, so get the information, like seeing Qovery instrumenting your applications, you had to add what we call macros. So annotations, specific annotations and labels into your Helm values. But now it's no longer the case. You no longer need to add like those custom annotations for Qovery. Actually, they are done automatically by what we call a Kubernetes admission controller. Okay, so it means that getting those information. So if I go here and tuning, let's take that Datadog. So this Datadog. Okay, so this Datadog Helm chart. Okay, if I looked at the values file here, I had to do that. Okay, so that was the classic way of just instrumenting specific annotations like from Qovery, specific labels from Qovery, just to get those kinds of information. So the services that they're running, getting access to the logs and everything. So basically, those things, so those annotations, you no longer need to put them. Okay. You can just basically, actually, for this Helm chart, what I can do is just dropping that. You see, I can just simply drop all of that. And by just doing that, I can save this and redeploy, and it will work exactly the same way. Okay, as simple as that. So it's even more like a simple just to get started with Helm charts and deploy your Helm chart, because now you no longer need to think about what Qovery needs to properly make it work with the platform. Okay, as simple as that. Yeah. Thank you, Miguel. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it for this one. It's a small improvement, but again, we try to launch the different feature, the different stuff. We see if people are using it, how they are using it, and then we improve just the process and the experience. That's the way we work on the overall experience of the platform. Okay, so let's move on. It's a lot, right? Yeah, we are almost at the end, actually. Then I can focus on few other things. Okay, the Cloudshell. I don't know how many of you, but actually I've seen a lot of users like discovering this feature because some of our customers are using Rails applications or even Python applications, stuff like that, where you can run, like get access to a specific shell. So it's a REPL that you can get access to execute some admin commands. It reminds me like a JMX with Java exactly the same way. And they find it very convenient just using getting a shell access right from the web console, and which is pretty nice, right? And the way it works, just then I cover this part and I can explain, I can show you how it works just quickly. But the way it works is in a very secure way, meaning that the connection is done from your infrastructure actually. So if you go back here on the explanation of how things works, we have a binary that is not the Qovery agent. Actually, it's the Qovery shell agent that is running on your cluster, on your Kubernetes cluster. So it works as well. It works even with your local version of Qovery. It works everywhere, because look at the way that it works. It's the Qovery shell that is opening a socket to the control plane, and then the client, so the web console, opening a connection with the control plane, and then the control plane just bind the connections between both. And it just works like in a very secure way. Okay, so you get access to all the capabilities, so which is RBAC. So obviously you can restrict access to your users, to those shells, depending on those permissions they can get or not access to that. But yeah, that's the way it works. And that's why it's also like possible to get this shell. So what we call the cloud shell, right from the web console. So, and it also works on all the different services, even databases, even managed databases. So if you are using a Bastion, or if you wanted to get access in a secure way to your database, you no longer need to expose in any way your databases. You can keep them private and open this shell from your browser with those elements. So let me just show you that. You will see it's very easy. And it even works with the resources that you deploy through the Helm chart. So you see this Datadog, for instance, and I can choose the pod that I want to connect, but this Datadog agent, so Helm chart that is deployed on my cluster, actually, you see, boom, I got an access to it. It just worked. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You're completely right, Peter. this plus the port forwarding are really useful, like for companies. And actually, yeah, what Peter mentioned is that we also provide the port forwarding feature. So right from your local machine, you can open with the Qovery CLI. You can port forward your local port to the remote port. It just works. And here, so with this Cloudshell, you can get access to any kinds of processes that they're running on your different clusters. So as a developer, you don't have to think about, oh yeah, I want to connect to this application. How can I do that? I need to download then the CLI and blah blah blah. No, you need to do like a specific operation on these applications. No problem. You can just like in one click, you can open a shell. You can run your command. You can even just like navigate. Everything works. Like you have access to. I don't know if I got Vim, but I can even install that. Okay, that's not something that you should do, obviously. I'm doing just that for like a testing purpose. If it's like a production, obviously product, yeah, maybe you're not, it's not so great just doing that, but just in case you need to, then you can do it. So which is convenient. Yeah. So you see, as simple as that. That's pretty good, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. Yes. So this is something that is that we were not used to. Actually, we worked a lot on the developer experience, but now we are working on something really special because our goal, like for the next quarters, the 2 next quarters, are to really, really, really make it very easy, like for anyone just getting started with Qovery, especially when it's time to deploy different type of services. So obviously, deploying containerized application is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You have a Docker file, you just put your Docker file. Obviously, we can build it and we can do everything. So it's inside in a Kubernetes, so which is super, super easy. But when you need to deploy external resources, like let's say you want to use a Terraform script that you have done to deploy, to spin up RDS instance, then it gets a bit more like complicated. It can take time just to grasp exactly how things works on Qovery. With the lifecycle job, we have the concept of lifecycle job that you can use, and that makes the things like possible. So obviously you can deploy by yourself a Terraform module script, but it requires a lot of extra effort just to make it work. And for that, that's why we have started to work. So that's something that we are working on right now on this new way of deploying services. So basically, if you need to deploy a Terraform script, if you need to deploy, let's say, a Postgres database, and you want to use CloudFormation or any other technology, you will have, so that's the flow that we want to provide, is really putting our shoes into the way the mindset that users are like using the product is, okay, I want to deploy a Postgres, I have this CloudFormation script, I want just to use it. Then you will get the ability just to use a script. So that's something that we are working on in an iterative way. We try to get feedback. We look at the product analytics tools, how things works and how people are using it. But basically, you will see a huge improvement here to make sure that you get the right level of experience that you expect to deploy and use those scripts. Because Qovery is not, obviously it works on Kubernetes, but the way it works is that we use Kubernetes as an orchestration layer. Okay, so you can run and execute any type of workload. And you can execute and create external resources as well. We have customers actually that are not even deploying containers. They are just deploying Lambdas, deploying managed services, and they use Qovery as a way to unify the whole experience and get a very simple way to duplicate environments, to create new environments, to like empower developers and provide like those elements right from one single interface. Yeah. So that's something that we are working on. We are super eager to get your feedback on that. If you have like some ideas on how to improve that, but basically you will see a lot of iteration in the coming days because we are still working on it. But again, it gives like a better idea of what you can do with the product, which was not the case before because you only had like a few elements that you were able just to deploy, application, database, lifecycle job, but that were like super generic. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, Mikael. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, you are using a lot of lambdas here with the lifecycle job. And I think so. You grasp the idea of how using that, but I know that maybe it was like a bit painful just to grasp to get the idea of how configuring that, also like troubleshooting the different things. But that's something that we are working on. But obviously, once it's done, you no longer need to do it. But for the next one, then it can just give like a better sense of how you can do all of that. Yeah. There is another question. So, is there a plan to add complete environment templates? Oh, that's a very good question. Just let me get to this point, Peter. Just let me get to this point, like in a few seconds. But that's a very good question. Thanks a lot. It's a good transition actually for like a few other slides, and it's not so far. Okay, I'm just going to cover that, and then I come back to your point. The contextual helper, okay, it's not like the big thing, but I wanted just to cover that because it could be quite useful, and that's something also we want to improve. We know that sometimes you might be confused about anything like on the platform. You might want to get more help about the things that you are on. So now we have revamped the way that we just provide the information at the right time to our users. So basically, now you have this icon here. So if I go off the screen and let's say I'm inside this environment and I want just to get more information about what's this environment and how the thing works, I get access to the different resources right from the right. And if I change my page, you see that it's refreshed with the right information. So that's something that we are improving, but basically the flow is that, okay, you get a helper system like on the right all the time that you need, if you have any help, if you need anything, or you want just to check the status, or basically you get access to that. Okay. It's not like the big thing, but still it's a consistent way for us just to provide help information on any pages like on the product. Okay. Yeah. So right. Okay. And let's move to this part. And yeah, thank you. So what's next? So that's like for the future, the things that we have delivered. Obviously, there is a tons of other things that I'm not even going to just to cover. It's like much more technical stuff that are happening in the background that are not so interesting just to talk about. I tried just to focus on the most visual and the things that you might need and experience. Okay, but if you want to get also more details about the different stuff that we are working on, even on in the machine, we have the changelog, by the way, that they are updated at the end of each sprint, so every 2 weeks. So it's detailed. We provide videos, more information. So just feel free to subscribe to look at those changelogs. And you will find all the information. You don't need to specifically wait for the demo day to get that, because here we can cover like all the elements in much more detail since it's every 2 weeks. Okay. All right. So what's next? We are going to support. So I mentioned the annotations, but the labels are not yet supported. Actually, it's probably going to be live like in the couple next days. I know that it's almost done. Very similar to annotations, so you'll get access to that in the product, in the platform. So again, if you follow the changelog, you will see once it's live. The Terraform and CloudFormation's native support. So that's what we were talking about. Actually, the team is actively working on that. We are evolving so the lifecycle jobs feature to provide more capabilities. You will even be able to define custom actions on that. So it's a really powerful like feature. So we are going to write an article, so technical, very technical article on that, just to explain how things works. Because again, we use Kubernetes as an orchestration layer. And what we do is that we do the glue and we provide all those capabilities on top of that. But basically, you will be able just to deploy and manage Terraform, CloudFormation, so script, and even more with the new version of our lifecycle job. And something that I'm quite excited, actually, it's like that's something that we need just to work on with all the feedback and all the experience that we had like on the last year about Qovery v3. So that were like a big work, big amount of work. We are now talking about like the Qovery v4. And the goal for us is really to provide all the capabilities that you expect from an internal developer platform. So now, since we have started to unbundle the product, and you're right, Michael, it smells like Tory. You're right. The goal for it is really to cover the needs of our like most experienced customers, to make sure that our customers they get everything that they expect from a platform. And something that is quite interesting is like providing those self-service capabilities for real. So one question that were from Peter. So the question that is there a plan to add complete environment template? Yes, that's the response to your question. And it's basically the catalog services. So that's something that we are working on. It's still like a draft, okay? But that's exactly what you ask for. So the ability to create templates, but it's not even just for the services or the environment themselves. It's a portal, so providing those self-service capabilities. So let's say you want to help your developers to do like specific operations that are not even related on the application. You can just provide those actions on this self-service catalog, basically. So we are revamping a bit the interface, just the navigation, to provide and to unbundle properly the product. And the idea is that you will get everything that you expect from an internal developer platform. So the orchestration part focusing on the software development lifecycle, so making the developers autonomous to manage, deploy, and run their application. Okay. And the ability to manage and provide like those self-service capabilities that could be not even related to the application lifecycle. So for instance, if you want to provide a template with some like level of governance and some like best practices to create a new repository, because one developer that is working on a new project might wants to create a new repository, and you want to just help them to templatize that, and just in one action they can get a form that they can complete and create that repository. Then you can provide a card that is named repository and help them just to create that kind of resources. So under the hood and behind, and that's why it's quite interesting that you mentioned Tori, Michael, is that we are going to leverage the whole platform, so Qovery, and the ability to create and use any kinds of scripts. So if you want to provide those cards and execute under the hood, a Terraform script, or a Python, Shell, CloudFormation, or anything, like even a script that do already exist and you want to expose some capabilities, some fields to your engineers with obviously some permission, that's exactly what's the purpose of the self-service catalog. Yeah. So yeah, that's the big thing. And you will see the platform is going to evolve in a way that it's much more tailored. I'm not talking about the production ephemeral environment aspects, so the features that you are seeing on the left, but themselves as well will be revamped and will be improved in a way that brings really what you expect from those elements when you are using them. Okay. So one question maybe, or it's just an affirmation. So in theory, use it to deploy other Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, actually, absolutely, Hugo. Because we use Kubernetes. Actually, Kubernetes is just a layer. It's an orchestration layer. you can use it. So Qovery, when you install it, you can use the portal capabilities, provide a create cluster card, as you can see on the screenshot, and then just basically create another, like a Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, because Kubernetes is just an orchestration, so layer. Yeah. I wonder if it will be used to create a vCluster. Yeah, actually, you can do. There is no specific. Here, you can do really whatever you want. So basically, if you want to create vCluster or any other stuff on Kubernetes, you can do that. Yeah, perfectly. That's the idea. That's the idea. So yeah, that's it for today. So yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time and asking all those questions. That was great. Thank you. Thanks a lot for being super active. Something also that I didn't mention is that we'll be at reInvent 2024 this year. So if you will have like a booth, so we'll share like the booth number once we have it. But if you're around and you want to meet us in person, then that's the perfect time for that. Otherwise, we are in New York and in Paris, so happy to just to catch up and meet in person. Yeah. So thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out and have a nice day. Bye.